I've never seen a diamond in the flesh. I cut my teeth on wedding rings.
Dude, that's pretty cool.
Man, that is a sad clown.
Dude, that's pretty good.
This is The Gloom, bringing you weekly interviews with F3 Omaha packs, exploring their F3 experiences and finding those sticky elements that create the glue in the gloom.
Shout out to our sponsors: Major Team Mortgage, Omaha Laser Dentistry, Exclusively Eye Care, Liberty Core Real Estate, Avier Wealth Management, and Apex Men's Clinic. We appreciate their support.
Hey, are you the type of guy that likes to get up early in the winter to battle your jester? Do you love listening to people drone on and on and on about COVID in the gloom? Would you trust your vision to a guy nicknamed Cataracts? Well, if the answer to any of these questions is yes, fellas, you have bigger problems than you think. Dr. Cataracts, aka Dr. Wolf, can't solve all of your problems, but he can certainly help you solve the problems related to your eye health and vision. You will find many F3 principles throughout his practice. Check him out today at Exclusively Eye Care.
Now let's get back to the gloom.
And we're back. Man, I'm really excited. This one's been about 4 years in the making, or more. Man,
probably five now, Plague. Probably five
almost
now.
5. Yeah, I love seeing this guy. I will never forget, and maybe we'll get into this. But Khakis and I went and had a morning coffee with our brother Hooah, and we were getting ready to launch down in Sarpy, and the timing wasn't right. And but a few years later, the timing was right, and we got lucky to get Hooah into the group and get him to lead. And recently, he just handed off the flag at the Octagon. And so, man, it's good to see you. Excited to hear your journey and your story, and would love if you maybe just start us kind of your version of that EH journey, and then if you remember what that first workout was like, would love to hear your account.
Sure. We'll call it the MASH workout, but I'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, I had Khakis so going way back, Khakis' older brother was my roommate in college. So I've known Khakis since 1983, and stayed in touch with the family, for many, many years, and still do to this day. But Khakis had EH'd me a number of times, but at that point, my M and I were working out at Orange Theory. It was a block from our house in Papillion, and so we'd just walk up there in the mornings and things. So that was going really, really well, and didn't want to disrupt that. But that didn't stop Khakis, as you know. The EH is very, very real. And he reached out, talked about you, Plague, and kind of how you two got connected. And next thing I know, we're having coffee at Panera, and it was a hell of a sell. I'm not going to lie. And I'd watched enough of the Name-A-Ramas and things. I felt like I was already part of the packs. But yeah, and to Plague's point, that the timing just wasn't right at that point. And but here we are through. There's way more to that story, and how I finally got to F3 and being a committed and engaged member of the packs. But yeah, in the first, my first post was at Cornhusker, July 19th, a couple of years ago. Khakis led. I was sitting on my couch on a Monday evening, just coming out of COVID, and so gyms were closed. Wasn't able to work out. Wasn't committed to my health and or much of anything at that point. I think I had gained close to 20 pounds through COVID, and he texted me, and I remember vividly sitting on the couch. Damn, I'm out of excuses. And so I said, "You might see me in the morning, Joe," because at that point I didn't reference him as Khakis, but just said, "You may see me in the morning." And so I set an alarm. Alarm went off, and I'm like, oh, okay, I feel all right. And I was doing Orange Theory at 5 a.m, so that early mornings wasn't, an issue for me. And got dressed, had no idea what I was getting myself into. To be fair, I always saw the Name-A-Ramas, which was post. And I knew people were sweaty, but I had no idea. And then, of course, the butt kicking commenced in the best way possible. But it all started with a patented Khakis Warm-A-Rama, which I think was one side straddle hop. And then we went right into the Steinel.
Oh,
And
wow.
so went to that, and I think the I don't even think there was a the Steinel was the pre thing. We got into the thing, and it was his also one of his patented beatdowns, which was deconstructing the burpee.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, and by the end of that, and for the next week, I couldn't even scratch my face. I tore my right tricep up so bad. So, but as I look back, I wouldn't have had it any other way. Nothing like diving right in and experiencing it all.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, how did we land on the name Hooah?
Well, of course, Khakis knew. At that point, he knew, but I served in the Army. I went in when I was 23 years old, already had a family, and so he kind of took care of me because he could have given me, the Marines version, which is Oorah, but he allowed me to latch on to the Army hard charging Hooah, and so that's kind of how that. I think there were a few other names thrown out, which, as you know, as you're standing in the pit there in the center of the circle, you're not grasping everything at that. Kind of like giving a cot, right?
Yeah.
You hope you're making sense. But it was kind of all a blur, so I can't remember, but I was grateful that we landed on Hooah because I'm sure there were some other things that were less desirable that were thrown out. So
I love it, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so, I am curious. I want to go back a little bit. So you're working out with your wife at Orange Theory, and then you finally do decide to make a commitment here. Is it, first, was it because of COVID? Was Orange Theory shut down? And then my second question was, how does your wife feel about you guys not working out together anymore?
Yeah. She, well, first of all, let me answer the second part first. She's ecstatic that I've found this group, or this group found me, or maybe a little bit of both, right? And so she's thrilled for that. Of course, she's not as active in the workout as she was either when we were doing it together. So I just encourage her and, try to help her in any way I can. A lot of times I'll bring some exercises and things back. She does a lot we live in a condo at Midtown Crossing. So, but we also both still belong to Genesis because it's right there on property. But she likes to just do things at the house. So I'll bring exercises back that somebody introduced in one of the beatdowns, and hey, try this or incorporate this into your workout. So of course she's thrilled that I found the group. I've tried to encourage her to, join FIA or get involved with some of those types of things, but she's a physician assistant. So she's in the OR a lot. So a lot of early mornings and things like that. So most of the time that the timing just doesn't work out, but yeah, it's great to have her support and encouragement. As I've been on my 2-year journey now. Well, 5, a 3-year EH and 2 years in the pack. So
yeah, so we were getting ready to launch in Sarpy, and we said we got to find a guy who can sort of be like at the time it was like we needed like a tater tot or a big one for Sarpy, right? Who's like the guy that would get in and EH a bunch of his friends, and so your name came up immediately from Khakis. It's like, I got a guy, and we went and met with you. And I was looking at a text the other day because I was trying to prepare for this, and I remember texting Khakis, I think we got him. I think he's in, and but how cool, right? That like you have this relationship with your M and that you guys were able to do that. And, I think it has just worked out. So did you used to live in Bellevue and then move to Midtown Crossing at some point or?
Yeah, we raised our family. We raised our kids in West Omaha. They went to Millard West High School. And then I've worked at Bellevue University for this is my 16th year. I worked at Metro Community College before that. And at that point, athletics was reporting to me, the athletic director. So we would go to a lot of games. Well, I'd drive all the way back to West Omaha, get my wife, and then come back to campus in Bellevue. And that just wasn't, I was losing a big chunk of my day just going back and forth. So we made the decision to move to Papillion right there, 72nd and Cornhusker, which is right by the Orange Theory there. So that's where we had lived for a few years. And then we ended up building a house in Florida, and taking care of two homes got to be a little much. So we decided to move into a condo here in Omaha. And it's quite the simple life. But yeah, so that's kind of why we were working out there. Of course, I reflect on that meeting, Plague, and gosh, I've said it many, many times. I kicked myself for, my thoughts were just running about, gosh, who could I grab? I know I could have recruited right out of Orange Theory is guys are paying $150 a month,
Mm-hmm.
and we get to do this for free. And so and then also here at the university, a number of people. But again, to your point, things were good in what I was doing at that time. But
Yeah.
but it
Who
was
knew
still
the pandemic would happen and then,
Yeah.
completely change? I am curious, did you play rugby with khakis or what's your background like from a sports or sort of fitness perspective? Because you seem like you're a fit guy. You were doing Orange Theory. Like, what's been your journey from a fitness perspective, just kind of maybe looking back?
Yeah, of course. I played all the sports growing up. Grew up in a small town, originally from Omaha, but moved to small towns back in the '70s. My dad was an Omaha police officer and ended up disabled. A drunk driver hit him when he was on duty in his cruiser, and
Wow.
so he had a bad back situation. So he couldn't be an Omaha cop anymore. So we went to small towns, Loop City, Nebraska, then eventually Schuyler, and I'm one of 9 kids, and we all of us graduated from Schuyler. Now nobody lives there because that wasn't necessarily a home. But yeah, I played all the sports growing up, and in college I played football, baseball, even wrestled in a couple of meets because they had an open weight class. So I did a little bit of everything, and then I kind of got in that phase where I wasn't in college and just kind of living life. My wife and I had a son while we were in college. That's why I left early and joined the military. But there was a period of time where I wasn't taking care of myself because I wasn't active, and I hadn't been in the Army yet. Of course, the Army got me in shape pretty quickly. And then, I got out of the Army and then ballooned up really fast. I think I went from 200, a different kind of 200, to about 235 in 6 months.
Wow.
And then kind of recommitted myself to fitness. And it's just been a roller coaster since then. And Orange Theory, got me back into a consistent routine. And then COVID, and now here I am 2 years here. And as far as from a fitness perspective, it's probably the happiest I've been just because of the whole concept. The idea of it was great with my wife. We were rooting for each other and helping each other. Now I've got this massive group of people that I know, and I've had a couple of little injuries here and there, but man, the amount of support and encouragement and guys peeling off just to make sure you have somebody there, encouraging you, guiding you, or at least taking a break to help you get through whatever it is you could go through. I mean, it's an incredible experience. And that's what I mean. It just, as hard as the beatdowns are, it's the happiest I've ever been getting beat down.
That's great, man. Well, and I am curious. I had a conversation with Betamax on Sunday about former military guys and how they view the boot camp. And he's like, for me, coming out of the military, I was getting PT while I was there. And once I got out, I wanted nothing to do with any type of regimented workout like that. So I am curious, your perspective on this boot camp style workout.
Yeah, like I said, gosh, I wish I would have found it right after the military because I wouldn't have ballooned up to 235. But that's also part of the journey, right? And I think he was Air Force, so let's be honest. Is that really a boot camp? I mean,
what do they say? The chair force?
Yeah. I know when I was over in Desert Storm, I know those guys were staying in high rises. We were in tents in the middle of the desert, right?
Nice.
So it's respect them all, but that's not the real military. But no, it's I think there's there's similarities in the camaraderie, right? But I got to tell you, as much as you want the person next to you to be working their tail off when you're in the military, you don't see the same level of support. I think I don't know if it's. I'm not going to say it's a competition thing, but you all are competing for promotions and things like that when you're in the military. Here, you're striving to improve yourself, but you also know by being there, you're helping others improve, and meanwhile they're supporting you. So it's a different kind of camaraderie. I think I put my F3 involvement right up there with my military service, and with the nuances, there's something to be said about serving your country. I mean, at the end of the day, that means so much in so many ways. But when you look at the collectiveness of F3, because this is, you raise your hand in the military, but then you're told what to do.
Yeah.
Here, you get to choose what you want to do and how hard you want to do it and how often you want to do it. And so the workouts are very similar, but in my opinion, because you flutter kicks or flutter kicks and all those type, but it's the vibe, it's the environment in which you're doing it. I think there's nothing I've experienced. All the athletics that I've been in, all the teams I've been in, this is to me the best I felt about belonging to something or being a part of something.
That's really cool. It's cool to hear just that kind of comparison from your perspective. And it's always good to give Betamax a hard time about
of course,
about the Air Force. I am curious because you kind of mentioned like what Free to Lead talks about is like the Pogo 40, right? Of like the kind of ups and downs. You feel like F3 is kind of is sticky from a first F perspective? You feel like you've made some progress, or kind of how would you say you're doing today? Are you where you want to be? You said you're happiest, but like from maybe a weight perspective or are you as fast as you want to be, or what sort of goals would you say you've got from a fitness standpoint?
Yeah, man, that's a great question. I think for me, as I've said, it's been a roller coaster. So I don't think you're ever there, right? I think you're kind of, I turned 60 coming up in November of this year. So I don't think you're ever there. There's so much more I want to do, so many different ideas. I think right now my greatest struggle is I just keep experiencing these little injuries. I've had a couple of calf issues. Something's moved up into the back of my knee now. I've been going in physical therapy. I've got an MRI scheduled now. Unfortunately, I can't get in until October for that. That's the hard part of it. But again, I know if I show up, and I will show up tomorrow for the shovel flag pass at Heavy tomorrow. And obviously upper body is a non-issue. It's just lower body stuff. But if there's any type of running or anything and I can't do it, I know there's going to be somebody standing there beside me, making sure they're there with me and helping me get through whatever it is I'm going through. And I know I've done that in the past. And but man, it's tough, as I'm sure you all have experienced as well, even with your young selves. You get nicked up a little bit, and your mind saying, God, I want to do this. I got to do this. I need to do this. And the body's just saying you can't. And that's been the hardest part for me. But I can't wait to get on the other side of this and, keep on that acceleration journey. There's so much more I want to do, as I said. I just got to get my body back to that point. But again, it's great having options where you can go and it's a non-running AO. So you can still get out there and be a part of, the awesomeness of what F3 has to offer.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's kind of the bread and butter of these beat downs, right? I mean, it's, not necessarily a competition amongst the other PAX members, but you can kind of come and take it as hard as you want to do it. And so if you need to be cognizant of, hey, I'm dealing with some lingering issues. Okay. And I hope that you feel welcomed and there's people there supporting you that hey, I've got to kind of take it easy today. I am curious, being an older PAX member, not to throw you under the bus or anything. What do you think? What do you think of the makeup of the group? What's it like going out there and working out with younger guys your age? I mean, it's kind of unique that we have this set up, and so I'm always interested to hear your perspective on this.
Man, I got to tell you, I think that's one of the most impactful things, right? You get guys in their 70s, 60s, 50s, 40s, all the way down to guys bringing their boys, their sons out at a very young age. I think it's one of the most motivating things for me because, with everything going on in our world and looking at the generational changes, man, you hear a guy like E85 out there and the maturity is beyond years, right? Every time he gives a cot, I'm so impressed, but also so encouraged and motivated about our future. When you hear those things. So for me, I've enjoyed all of the age ranges. I think every single person that I've had, I've been blessed enough to post next to, on a daily or weekly basis or whatever, they've all offered something impactful. And quite frankly, just their presence sometimes, you show up at a beat down and you're not quite sure who's going to be there unless you've reached out to some guys ahead of time or whatever. Man, sometimes you didn't even know that person was going to be there, but just seeing them is uplifting. And, because you may know something they're going through. Maybe you had a conversation with them and they helped guide you through something. It's just, I just think it's one of the, because even at F3, you may have some age ranges like that. When you get in a room, the most you're going to have in there usually is about 12 to 18. And you've got males and females in there. So you don't have the same thing where you've got a group of men, that can talk about things that are impacting us. Right.
Yeah.
And you can still have those conversations, but it's not the same. You can't be as vulnerable or open as you would if there's three of us sitting down like this. It's just not the same, right? Yeah. And so I've really I've loved the age diversity or the diversity of age that F3 offers. There's youth comes in many different forms, right?
Yeah.
And so does age.
Yeah. I heard somebody say recently, you're not old, you're just chronologically gifted was how they,
there you go.
That.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. I'm really encouraged when I see some of our younger packs. We just interviewed Baby Shoes, who's only 22. And then
incredible. Incredible.
This morning we had an F&G who's 20. And these guys are coming out in their 20s when I know all I could think about was drinking and partying and whatever. And they're hungry to learn from men that have been through life. And that's what this kid said this morning. He's 20 years old. I'm like, what are you doing out here? Kind of giving him a hard time. And he's like, well, I'm just excited to be around all you guys. And, it's like, that was unheard of when I was that age, so I think it's so cool that we're seeing that, kind of change, in our culture. It's really inspiring. But, I would be curious for you as you think about, as you joined the group, obviously you knew Khakis. Were there other guys that you knew as you kind of got into it, or how'd you go about sort of getting to know the guys and building some of those relationships kind of on that fellowship piece?
Yeah, obviously I leaned on Khakis a little bit. And of course, the first one you meet when you meet Khakis at a beatdown is Tater Tot, because they don't go anywhere without each other. Right? It's the yin and the yang, but and what a super good dude that is, right? He might be one of the most positive people I've ever met in life. So appreciate him every single time I even when I don't see him, I think about him whenever I'm feeling a little down. Because it's kind of like, how would Tater respond to this? Yeah. He would just smile. He would just smile. But anyway, I kind of lost my train of thought there. But as far as introductions, yeah. So then Khakis, got me out to the Cornhusker on Tuesday, and then I literally couldn't touch my face because my tricep was so bad. So then but we stayed in touch. I just kept updating him on what was going on, and then he said, "Hey, by the way, I don't remember what was going on at the district." He goes, "Hey, come to the district on Monday." Well, I have no idea what that is, right? So I show up at the district for my second beatdown. Well, there's when you start to, figure out he's introducing you to people and things like that. So of course I couldn't do the push-ups. So we just did a modification, nor could I keep up with all the running, but it's always good to, again, have somebody looking out for you. So we'd get to core or something and say, okay, let's get up. And we would start running early. And then the pack, the group would catch up to us. But I was able to get through that without holding people. Not that people care, but I cared. Yeah, right. Sure. I cared. I wanted to make sure we kept things moving along. So it was great to have that guidance. But now I would tell you the cool thing for me. I coached a lot here in the Omaha metro area. Football and baseball, and I'm seeing these kids, young men, right, that I coach now. Ran into haven't seen. Bryant McCann, Ditka, hadn't seen him in years, and we posted together last week at Futurama. And it was like we never missed a beat, right? I see him, I follow him on LinkedIn. We're connected on LinkedIn, but to see those connections and is awesome. because now you get to see these kids that you knew worked their tails off when they were middle schoolers or whatever, and now to see them out here committing to the same journey you're on, it's awesome to see. So.
Well, and how has that changed the dynamic of your relationship, right? I mean, now you're coming kind of in as equals now instead of this mentored student role.
You're exactly right. And I think the beauty of that, I don't have the whistle, right? So I'm not saying get on the line, right?
Yeah.
They are, right? So now they're in that leadership role. And that's when you're doing this, you don't really have that perspective when you're doing it. You're trying to help them be, instill good values in them when you're coaching youth athletics and good habits and behaviors and those kinds of things. But you're not necessarily teaching leaders. Unknowingly you're teaching through example. You're leading through example, right? But man, to see them out there now applying that and the maturity and commitment and dedication, the laughter, having fun doing it. It's inspiring to see them. And there's several of them now that I've run into, over the years, and hopefully we'll get to see more come out as, F3 Omaha continues to grow. I mean, over 2,700 PAX members now.
Yeah.
From start, it's mind-boggling to me. And, but yeah, it's cool to see them and follow their lead for once.
Yeah. Did you, after that district post, did you get to experience Khakis Cafe? That was the first time I got to experience it. Yes. And
awesome.
I think I even put it in my shovel flag pass back on the 12th was that's one of the first things I hit on was, thanking him for his hospitality. I think it's one of the coolest things for somebody to commit that much time and it is a financial commitment too. Mm-hmm. I've seen guys try to give him money and he absolutely will not take it. He's offended by that, right? Yeah. So, but yeah, I think it's one of the cool nuances of F3 Omaha. Is because that's. I remember I talked to somebody about it not too long ago, and they're like, "Wait a minute, this isn't an actual cafe." And they said, "No, it's his house.
It's
his
house,
right?
Yeah, he lives here. His family's sleeping inside. Yeah.
In the winter to be in the garage, but today you get to be out by the fire pit with 80-degree temperatures at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Oh man, it's been brutal. Well, yeah. I'm curious too. Like there's some concepts that we often talk about when we think about fellowship or the second F, and like shield lock or like Q source is kind of another big second F kind of thing. Have you had a chance to kind of engage or participate with those things at all?
Yeah, I've been able to participate in a couple of sites in the Q source, Paradise and Beverly Hills. Yeah. Because I live east, so when I'm healthy, I'll hit that and do the running. So I've had a chance, and I remember reaching out to Khakis after the first time I got to experience a Q source, and it's awesome having just the side conversations and catching up with people, but to have that purposeful conversation again with the diversity in age. It is very powerful. Mm-hmm. I found it to. I don't want to do that every time because sometimes you're just not in the frame of mind, and you would just be sitting there to be sitting there. And you just need to get through the workout, and you wanted to go decompress somewhere. But man, I would really encourage people who haven't done it to go experience it. I really like what they do at Beverly. Some they obviously rotate that around like most sites do, but even in a specific session. They give everybody a chance to read a section and facilitate that micro section. So it helps people be more present in the conversation. Yeah. But yeah, I've really enjoyed those. I haven't done them as much as I have done just traditional cafeteria, but I do enjoy the concept and the facilitation and purposeful conversation.
Mm-hmm. What about like respect pop-ups or anything? Have you been able to participate in those?
Yeah, I hit those whenever it's been a couple of months now with travel and then maybe some injuries. I will be going this Thursday. I won't be able to do any of the running, but I'll figure something out. Mm-hmm. There is a turf field to lay on and do core, so I'll be fine. But yeah, we've done many respect. I think I know I've led one. I queued a Respect pop-up early in my time. I think I had just finished my VQ, and I remember sitting at a Respect pop-up cafeteria, and TC was like, well, Hooah just had his VQ. He can take the next one. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm taking the next one, right? So the EH within the EH. But so I did queue a Respect pop-up, and contrary to what some joke about, they're no joke.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not like it's an easier workout, or we're doing the same things that the hate group would be doing. But that was also a really unique opportunity when we did the Respect Hate pop-up together. I think it was Side Dish and Dollface co-led that beat down. And again, it goes back, Tony, what we were talking about a little bit, and having these younger guys and, you know, being there with them, and they're looking at us and we're looking at them, and we're both motivated by what we see. And so that was really a cool, again, a really, really difficult beatdown from what I remember. But beyond that, it was just a great experience to have, you know, under 30 and over 50 there together, all committed to the same thing.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, and I think Plague and I are both jealous because we've fallen into this realm where we're too old for the hate and too young, too young for the Respect. You know, but I guess I could see where you guys like are giving each other an opportunity to get with like-minded people and like-aged people, and just have an opportunity to kind of feed off each other. And assuming that you guys are probably going through some of the same things in your life cycle at this time.
Yeah, that's absolutely the concept, right? I remember we were sitting at cafeteria and they were talking. We were just teeing up topics of things that are going on, and somebody brought up, I'm getting ready to have my last my child go off to college, right? And we're getting ready to be empty nesters, and so guys started chiming in about what that's like, and you know, and you think, gosh, what are we going to do with all of this free time that we have now that we don't have kids? And I just reminded him, I said, it will fill up. Trust me.
Mm-hmm.
You will have no problem filling that time. And then talking about that, you know, the first break that their son or daughter comes home, or maybe the first summer, right, where they think they don't have to follow rules. I try to prepare people for that. So that's exactly what it is. There's just different things that go on. We're at different places in the number of years we've been married. You've got kids are at different age at that point, and some have grandkids. I'm blessed to have 3. So you're just able to talk about those types of things. But heck, I honestly believe I could have the same conversations with the hate group that I can have with the Respect, and guys are still going to be fully present in that conversation and trying to help and support and do whatever they could to encourage.
I love that. I got to thinking about like the whetstone, right? Like kind of the mentoring relationship, and would love your kind of take on that. I think I'm hearing a little bit that it kind of just happens naturally, but would be curious if anybody's reached out. I always think like maybe it's because of corporate, you know, work setting of like a formal, you know, mentor mentee kind of thing, but it seems like in F3 we're all sort of mentoring each other.
Yeah.
And I don't know. How do you see that?
Yeah, no, I agree. You know, I do teammates mentoring. So I've done that for several years. And I actually have a college age young man now that he received one of the scholarships and has to have a mentor, and he goes to Bellevue University. So it's very natural for me to mentor him. So, you know, that's your more formal stuff. Although I'm a pretty informal guy, I can be formal when I need to, but it's just to me about conversation, and you know, whatever comes up in that conversation, you just kind of take it that way and let it happen organically or naturally. So I do agree with you. I think, you know, I think shield locks really have I haven't been in one yet, but I observed some of those that have, and you can tell how incredibly important that is for them, and whatever it is, whatever they're trying to get out of it, you can tell that there's commitment and in full engagement in that. But gosh, I just think as soon as you try to formalize something that doesn't need formalization, I think you lose something, right? I love just the natural flow of conversation and just let it go where it goes.
Yeah.
Because you never know, just through conversation, somebody may expose something they're going through, but they never would have done it if you tried to formalize it, right? They just feel comfortable in natural in a conversation, and then you just let that go, and then you just kind of talk through it. I prefer, that's how I interview. I'll ask the questions because HR makes you ask the questions.
Yeah.
But I'm really evaluating conversation.
Mm-hmm.
That I want to know how you formulate thoughts. How engaged are you? Those types of things. We can teach you the hard skills. I just need somebody who I know is relatable, caring. That's just how that's my perspective and my experience.
Yeah, no, I love it. I think it's so cool. I think too, just, like you said, you never know when somebody's going to be at that moment where they have something on their heart or maybe the workout was so hard they're delirious and they just decide to share it, whatever it might be. But it's like, that moment. And I think SkyQ has a lot to do with that. I remember like EH and khakis, right? It was just a SkyQ moment, right? It was just,
right.
I don't even remember walking up to him saying to come out, and he probably doesn't even remember saying yes, but it just happened so fast and he was just ready. Are you or someone you know in the market to buy a new home? Well, if so, check out Major Team Mortgage. They specialize in home purchase and refinance home loans. Their mission is to purposely empower people to experience their good life through building wealth with real estate. Showing up in the gloom is no different than showing up for a conversation around your future of building wealth with real estate. Join the action economy and get in the game with Sasquatch. Text or call John at 402-212-0149 to schedule a time today. Individual NMLS number 1393750. Company NMLS number 2478164. Equal housing lender. Curious, as we think about like the third F, what's been your journey, your experience from like a faith or third F perspective?
Yeah, that's probably the one area that I need to strengthen. I grew up going to church, very involved. I was raised Catholic, 9 kids. I know that was probably a giveaway, so very involved in the church, altar boy, youth organizations, going to retreats, got married, and then eventually had our marriage blessed while we were in Germany by the Catholic chaplain while I was stationed in Germany. And then over time, you just kind of fall away. There's some things that have happened in the Catholic Church that, I think every organization goes through, and that I'm not going to say that deterred me. I may be saying that to mask that I haven't committed, recommitted to the level I should. It's something my wife and I talk about. So, but I do feel this is religion agnostic. I do finally feel like I have some religious connection or connection to something greater than me without going to church. Mm-hmm. Right. And, you get to you just did a bunch of hard things together. You got your announcements, prayer requests, and you listen to prayer requests, and gosh, the things you're dealing with sometimes are so minor. So perspective is so awesome. When I'm complaining about my leg and, somebody's going through cancer or a loved one's going through cancer, and, it's just minor in comparison. But then you get to come together and put your arms around each other, and whoever takes us out in prayer, some have religious connections, some aren't, right? It's just about reflection. Mm-hmm. And which I think is the coolest thing. I try to explain it to people. We could have an atheist and, a priest in the circle, and nobody even talks about it. And,
right.
That's not what it's about. It's just about, being there. But I do believe it's such an important aspect in my life. And I'm not gonna say I've failed, but I've haven't been as committed. I still believe in my faith. And still, do go to church periodically. But it's something that that's part of that journey that I'm still on in that roller coaster. But man, it sure has helped me when I get to put my arm around the high impact men on my right and my left, and get to reflect.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the most important part, right? It's not that necessarily everyone's journey is in a perfect place at this particular point, but that in that moment, they're getting their fill of that third F, right? They're getting some opportunity to reflect, whether that's in prayer or just self-reflection, whatever that is. That's what it's all about. So it's encouraging that you heard that. On the one thing I'll say about the prayers, and I love that Samples does this, he keeps a list of answered prayers. And I think about people like Tin Cup, right? Tin Cup's going through his things. We're all joining together praying for him. And then, he's kicking ass. It happened. And it's just so powerful. And then just the opportunity to sit there and reflect and kind of helps you put into perspective the things that you're going through when you, like you said, when you hear it against the weight of what everyone else is going through can be really sobering.
Yeah, and that's such a great example too for me. And I don't know how much time we have, but you guys can shut me off.
We got as much time as you want, brother.
Oh, all right. Wow. Finally, I'm in charge of time. But it's so awesome that you bring him up, because I've talked to Tin Cup about this. I remember he made that announcement at a Respect pop-up, and he wasn't Respect yet, but he was just getting ready to become of Respect age, which I remind guys, age 50 is just a number. It takes a lot more for people to respect you. I think I gave that COT in a Respect pop-up once when it was like 32 below wind chill, December 22nd, a couple of years ago. It was brutal. But we were there. There was 8 of us. But nonetheless, going back to Tin Cup, he made that announcement, and that's where he felt comfortable and opening up. And man, that's where it really, really flipped for me. I remember walking off the field at Burke with Chiclets, and I was still pretty new, and I was going there and working out, right, and kind of figuring this thing all out. And man, when you hear something like that, and that's when I knew that if I ever was going through something, I know I'm in great hands, right? I've got the right people around me. They don't even know it yet, but they're the right people around me to help me get through whatever it is I'm going through. But it also reminded me that just being present, just being there, even if you're struggling a little bit, you never know what somebody else may be going through. So just being there and just chatting with them, as you're running from station to station or moseying or whatever, and just having conversation, you don't realize how impactful that might be for that individual. And in turn, I really believe you get that back tenfold.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. There's so many stories like that too, right? And I've had so many times where I'm frustrated about something, and then you hear somebody's kid has brain cancer, and you're like, okay, nothing that I'm going through is even close to that, so it's totally agree. I would be curious too, your thoughts on when you think about the third F, right? There's kind of also this like community service sort of arm, and you mentioned teammates mentoring, and talk to us a little bit about how community service or just service in general maybe has had an impact on your life.
Yeah, I think I've been a recipient of some of those things growing up, and not having a lot growing up, as my dad was disabled and living in small towns. So I had a lot of coaches and that people who invested time and resources in me. So I try to do the same for others in my life, or that I may come across. So I've always prided myself in, I don't care. I sit here in the university as a vice president. I don't care if it's a custodian or a maintenance person or an admin assistant or the president. If I see somebody, or somebody reaches out to me, I will always carve out time to sit down and listen and help in any way possible. But I also gain something every time I do that too, because there's always something I learn, even from my mentee, who's a college kid, right? College young man. So I haven't had a chance to go out and do a lot of the our community service stuff that F3 offers most of the time, because it hits when we have commencement a couple Saturdays a year. There's just things that travel. I have been out to the Grataville fundraiser a couple times, and try to do what I can to support that. Obviously, being in higher education, I know how impactful an education can be on a young person's life. So, I'll always try to continue to do what I can to support, what they're doing, and always look for new ways to do that. But I do, Wentworth lives right across the street from my son, so I know he's really involved and he reaches out. He's one I really appreciate that constantly reaches out and engages and encourages involvement as well as Vandalay. So I look forward to maybe in year 3 being more involved in some of those things as my schedule allows, just because of the impact they have on, you're there with your brothers and you're helping somebody else, through some struggles they're having in their life here in the community.
So I just always assume for me when my kids are out of the house that I'll have time for that. But what I hear you saying is maybe that's not always true, right?
Yeah, no, it's I thought the same thing. I thought, gosh, what am I going to do after all the coaching? And it fills up with things. But that should never excuse us from making commitments and clearing that calendar, especially when it can positively impact others.
Yeah, I just got to take them with me now, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
And that's just tough. I mean, just on a personal level, I find myself having a hard time sacrificing my time for the good of others because I think about my family, I think about the limited time that I have. But what I'm hearing you say is you're always making a commitment to do that, and you typically gain something from that. Mm-hmm. That's obviously not monetary or anything like that, but just some type of betterment for yourself.
Yeah, just fulfillment, right? And especially when you talk about a paint-a-thon. I used to love mowing my grass because I could always look back and look at the progress, right? And say, wow, look how good that looks, right? So painting a house like that is always intriguing to me because you could see the end product by the end of the day. And it's visual. It's right in front of you. You don't have to wait for a sign, that, I accomplished something because it's physically right in front of you. Yeah. So that's pretty impactful and fulfilling in a short time commitment. But yeah, that's something I've got to commit to and do a better job of putting it on my calendar and committing. Not just, hopefully my calendar will be free then. No, make it, put it on your calendar and make a commitment to be there and do that. So, but I also remind people too, you've got to make sure you're taken care of and your family's taken care of, because if they're not, you're not much good to anybody, right? So that should still always be the first priority. And if you ever get a chance to serve others, it's a pretty damn good thing.
Yeah, love it. Sounds like a call to action to me.
Yeah. Well, hey,
this is self-talk, by the way. This is self-talk.
Well, I'll take it with a grain of salt then.
Yeah.
But we do want to talk about your leadership experience at the Octagon. Walk us through how that kind of came about, what your personal experiences were, highs, lows, and then how you found the successor.
Yeah, well, I'll start with the last part first. I was fortunate. Khakis at EH Tassels. Their wives I think are cousins or something like that. Well, Tassels also here at the university does a lot of stuff at our commencement. That's the business he owns. He does a lot of photography, and then he also does this thing, Grad Scan, where as graduates are going across the screen, there's a software that you scan a QR code and it projects their name up on the screen so he provides a service like that. So I've gotten to know him over the years because that department used to report to me here at the university. So we were at commencement, last year, and I mentioned to him, I just said, hey, have you ever thought about F3? Is Joe Khakis ever talked to you about it? And he goes, he's mentioned something. I go, well, I think I'd love to see you there. I'm going to be queuing at Cornhusker. And I think it was about 3 weeks from then is when I was and we hadn't talked from that point to 3 weeks. I'm standing out there and here he comes walking up to Cornhusker. So it was just a natural for me watching how he's really embraced it and committed to the mission. And it was an easy selection for me. So I started the process a few months before my year-ish was up. And of course, he thought about it a little bit. We just kept the conversation going. And then I think he saw, the value of committing at that stage of his journey. So that part was easy. For me, Dollface was asking me if I was interested to take over heavy metal, which I do go there some, but I do enjoy the cardio. So I was splitting time between Beverly and that, and then Slow Pitch and Khakis and others were talking to me about the Octagon. Well, then I kind of weighed everything out in Khakis Cafe almost every Monday. And for me, I think which really contributed to my decision, to be honest, but also the a little connection to the Central and the West. Living in the East, it was an opportunity to see some guys maybe that I wouldn't see on the coming to the East side, unless there was a special event or something. So it became a pretty clear decision for me. And then I was awesome to see Woody and Caruso take over heavy. We got that shovel flag pass tomorrow. Now that year's come already too. So, but the journey, I've really enjoyed it. And, remember taking it over and just reminded people, I see this as my calling as the next step in giving back and from a leadership perspective to F3 Omaha. But, that's not for everybody. There's other ways. It's just like leading a workout or, queuing one or whatever it might be. I just encourage them to find what that role is for them. But it was incredibly fulfilling for me. I got to reach out to guys and invite them to come and lead at the Octagon site. Geez, I was reach out to guys and I didn't realize they had never been there. So then it'd get them another week. They'd come and work out just so they could get familiar with the site. Then they would lead. My goal was to make it through the year without repeating a queue, and I believe I made that without having to have somebody queue twice. There may have been one because somebody had an illness or something, but that was my goal. So I felt really good about spreading the wealth and having diversity and beatdowns and those types of things. I will tell you, Plague and others who developed PaxNet, thank you. I wish that would have come before I took over, because that was the hardest part, was trying to help tassels understand. Oh, you got this spreadsheet, you've got this, and then voila, here comes this euphoric phase of PaxNet. What an incredible upgrade! So it became a lot easier to transition with that tool available. So, but I really enjoyed my time, and I know when you leave a site queue, it says retired site queue, but I would never say never that I would do it again at another site, or when the need or something rises. I stand at the ready to find out what my next role is within the F3 Omaha.
Heck yeah.
I love that, man. I love that attitude. And, the goal is to obviously help instill some leadership skills, right? We're reinvigorating male community leadership.
Right.
You had experience as coach, mentor in the teammates program. And I am curious, did you pick up any tricks or tips along the way? Anything that kind of translated over?
Well, I think at the end of the day, I think one of you said it, as we were just getting ready to come on, I think authenticity. I think as soon as you try to come across, somewhat fake or something like that, you're going to fail miserably. So it's just being your authentic self, having fun. There's a time to be serious, but, we're out here together doing hard things. So make it fun, allow people to enjoy the experience, and because it's going to hurt a little bit, right? So we might as well have some fun and laugh while we're doing it. And there's nobody who does that better than Slow Pitch.
Yeah. Oh man, I know. That's been a lesson for me, is kind of, as I don't know if I'm getting older, as I got, sober and clean, that it was hard for me to have fun. And so being around guys that are having fun, has taught me a lot just about, okay, I don't need to take myself so seriously, which is such a good lesson to learn. Curious, any advice or, thoughts, in that realm for guys that are leading a site, anything maybe that you learned through being a site Q, or maybe just other things you've learned as a leader, anything you feel like guys should be paying close attention to?
I don't think there's no special sauce or anything. I think, as you're reaching out to people and encouraging them and inviting them to lead it at the site that you happen to be responsible for the period of time. just engage with them. Let them know you're here for them. Obviously you're there every week, so you have a pretty good idea of what works, what doesn't work. I always try to give people heads up with certain things like the sprinklers at the Octagon, those darn things. No matter how hard we tried, they would come on at the worst time. So we'd avoid the football field at certain times of the year, and just make sure they're prepared, so they don't feel like they're alone, or if they're just unsure or uncertain. I'd always get there early and just let them know, hey, I'll be there early. If you need something, let me know. Some guys need cones, some guys need lights, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
As the mornings are still dark. But really, that's all it is just being available and supportive. Heck, at the end of the day, they're doing you a favor.
Yeah.
So I've enjoyed the getting to know and watching people and how they construct, and then obviously you get a chance to steal some of their ideas and incorporate them into your beatdowns when you're queuing.
Yeah, I love it. No, that's great. I think helping guys be prepared, and like you said, just partnering is key. I love getting, if I'm on the queue, I get the text the day before, right? That's, hey, do you need anything? You got,
Yeah.
You would think by now I've got it figured out, but I still love getting that text, even if it's just to say, no, I think I'm good. You feel like you said, you feel like you're going to show up and you've got the site queue to lean on if you need anything.
Well, and there's also another reason for that text is you haven't forgotten, have you? You don't have to say it.
Yeah.
But that's also a comment. Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to be there.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. And I think always as a site queue too is having that beat down in your pocket just in case something does happen with alarm clock issues or the child or something, get that text in the morning. So you're prepared to step in and lead a beat down. That'd be the never happened to me on the morning of, so I feel very lucky there, but making sure you have that contingency plan should something go awry in the morning.
For sure. Well, I love it. And, kind of where we like to kind of wrap up is just to get from you, and I think maybe I know what your answer might be, but where do you currently need prayers or encouragement? If guys see out there, or if we're just praying on our own, what could we be thinking about or encouraging you on?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Yeah, obviously, and guys, guys do reach out to me as I'm fighting through this. I went to the full beatdown on Thursday, and I couldn't even walk. My knee was so swollen on Friday, and so I'm just going to have to figure out how to navigate this thing over the next probably going to be a couple more months before we really know what's going on. But I still want to get out there and be around. So yeah, I think for myself and I know so many PAX members who have been dealing with the same kind of thing and still want to come out. Make sure we're staying engaged, because as we identified, just being present is good for you as well as others, right? But the other thing, for me is my 2 years. My first year, I lost my father in F3, and my second year, I lost my mother, right? So, being around guys and having those words of encouragement and those that was a blessing for me. And but of course each day we get beyond that, the easier it gets. But yeah, I think just for everybody who's hurting physically, mentally, emotionally, to your point, I'm really motivated by those that are in recovery, right? And the struggles. Again, for me, showing up, I just being there, I get it back tenfold. Listening to people and listening to men be vulnerable and talk about that openly and honestly, and it's motivating. Yeah. I'm not perfect. I've been fortunate not to have to deal with some of those things personally. I lost a brother to addiction, and buried him on his 40th birthday. So,
wow.
I understand some of what guys are going through, but I have not for me, but I know what their loved ones are going through is there. So I want to be there any chance I get to. Those are the ones we really need to continue to lift up and pray for. Again, it's all perspective, right? We all have our challenges and things we're going through, but man, what a powerful and impactful thing to be there with men going through that and willing to talk about it and embrace the challenge.
Yeah, for sure.
And be open to support. So.
Well, I love it. We'll be thinking about you with the knee or the calf stuff going on, and
all of it.
All of the above. Yeah, and I would just say I love hearing your story. It was it was worth the wait, right? However long it took to get you to join the group. I think I'm so glad that you're here and that we get to learn from you and kind of share this thing. So just appreciate your story and appreciate you taking time to share it here.
Yeah. Well, the appreciation's all mutual, brother. I appreciate the invite and you all sticking with me through that 3-year EH. And look forward.
It was worth it. We'll do a little name around here. I'll do myself, and I'll try to remember how old Pony is, and then we'll have you kind of wrap it up. Brandon Flehardy, 38, The Plague. John Whitworth, I think he's 33. Pony Express.
Yay. And Russ Lane, 59. Hooah.
Hooah. And you just
see in the gloom.
You just do the old military hooah, right?
Hooah,
respect, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And almost respect, right? So you said November.
Yeah, depending on my leg, I'll either do it at Woodshed, probably. It's a Friday, so I'll either do it at Woodshed or Brickyard.
Nice. I love it. That's fun too, right? When you got birthdays coming up, you can look and get on the Q schedule. I love doing that.
That's right. Yeah.
Appreciate your time, brother. Have a great day.
Yeah, thank you. You do the same. Take care, brother. Bye-bye.